Hey, what's up? In today's video, I would like to tell you all about the Summoner pet build, the one that's based on swiftness with the communication overflow class engraving. In my previous video, which is linked down below by the way, we discussed the specialization build based on Master Summoner, and the same as with that one, we're gonna go through the combat stats, gear choices, skills, gems, engravings, everything that you need to know in order to set up and play this really cool and unique build properly. Now, Summoner brings something new to the table, which is pets. Pets in Lost Ark is not a thing before Summoner, with the exception of maybe the Machinist, which has that gyro that follows him around. But for Summoner, it's completely different. These are a couple of the pets that you have access to. The Awakening is also a pet in this build, and then there's Shreddy, which is a pet that chases you around. So there's a lot that's happening on your screen, and as you can imagine, when you play swiftness as a primary stat, things keep happening. It's a really cool build, something that I absolutely recommend if you want to get that unique Summoner experience. The best way to play this build, if you want to main your Summoner and have it at the end game of end games and really min-max, is by maxing out your swiftness stat and going for critical as your secondary stat. We're gonna add here 500 just because of that. Now, this is played with the hallucination set of gear, and then in terms of engravings, we have the communication overflow. I apologize, I need to get used to this name because it was translated for us this way and I really want to learn it. So communication overflow, adrenaline, raid captain, grudge, and then keen blunt. These are your 5 core engravings. I personally don't necessarily like raid captain in this combination, but I'm going to talk about that in a moment. However, this is the one that gives you the utmost of the utmost efficiency, assuming your swiftness is at least at 1740, 1745. So that means very high quality accessories and also a swiftness bracelet, a swiftness crit bracelet at that. And if you are able to play 5+1 with this particular build, that's the best of the best. You're going to also take Senior Summoner, which is the other class engraving, at level 1. This would be a 5+1 best in slot at this moment set of engravings. Let me quickly answer the question as to why do we take Senior Summoner in this build and not some other engraving like Ether Predator or Hitmaster, right? Some of you were asking me actually during my live stream, why don't we take Hitmaster for a pet build? Master Summoner, which is the other class engraving, enhances, let me show you, enhances the ancient elemental skills, okay? Now this has a little bit more to it than the translation of the actual engraving on the tooltip. Ancient skills being enhanced or not, I will show you an example without Senior Summoner. This is how Al-Image looks without it. He is small and he has 1 instance of a hit. See, it's just this. That's it. Now, if we enhance, and by using at least a level 1 of Senior Summoner, our image becomes this. Bigger, which means he has a wider radius, part of being enhanced, but also he has a secondary hit upon going back into the ground, this one. The secondary hit is actually about 20 to 25% of the main hit, so it basically increases the damage of Al-Image by that much more. Plus, on top of that, it also increases the damage of it because it's an ancient skill by that extra 2%, right? Sometimes enhancing is not the best thing, like for example with the Phoenix. An enhanced Phoenix looks like this, with a couple of boom boom booms at the end, but sometimes without the enhancement the Phoenix becomes this, which puts a debuff that burns the target. The burn damage from the Phoenix is important. I'm going to tell you in a moment when we talk about the second option, which is the charm set as opposed to the hallucination. But before that, I want to tell you why we don't use, for example, Hitmaster in a pet build, even at level 1, right? Hitmaster does increase the damage that our regular pets do, like Maririn, like Pauru, etc. But it does not increase the damage that our Awakening does. And Again, awakening skill is also buffed by the communication overflow engraving, which makes Kelsion last longer, and obviously all of the other perks that this engraving gives him. So it becomes a pretty important sort of piece in the whole build, and it is not affected by Hitmaster at all. Raid Captain is something that I told you I don't particularly like, and the reason for that is because you have to go through too much trouble to actually make it worth it. Flashbang alert, by the way, I would like to show you the calculation here. So 45% damage increase out of my bonus movement speed, which Raid Captain is providing me. That is 13.5%. Right now, this is how much Raid Captain is giving me, with me being sort of maxed out in terms of stats here. I would need a Bard or a Pally with a level 2 Yearning set, which gives me a flat 10% extra movement speed in order to make this from 130 to 140, so from 30 bonus to 40 bonus. If I would have 45% out of 40% movement speed bonus, which is max, then this is 18%, in which case Raid Captain does indeed give me 3% more than a Cursed Doll, or 3.5% more than a Cursed Doll, maybe 3. Yeah, somewhere around that, because we're wearing Adrenaline, so Cursed Doll loses even a little bit more. And also Raid Captain gives me more than Hitmaster gives me, forgetting that Hitmaster doesn't affect the Awakening. Let's say it would. So even with a max potential of Hitmaster, then Raid Captain will still give me more. That's why people take it. There is another option, which is Mass Increase. Mass Increase is something that reduces the attack speed that you have, which you have plenty of, by the way, because you have so much swiftness. So reduces the attack speed that you have, but also increases the attack power by 18%. This is also a really valuable engraving, but Raid Captain is better than any other choice that you have right now. If Charm set is another option if you want your summoner as an alt. Maybe you wanna take it very easy on your summoner. You wanna get to 1445 with the Super Express, and then to 1460 slowly, 1475, 1490, etc. By the time you do that, the Charm set would have paid dividends in spades, based on how easy it is to still stay competitive without having maxed out on swiftness at least 1740 or 1750, which means really high quality accessories, without having very high level in terms of gems. We're gonna get that in there in a moment. So the Charm set is something that does damage based off your attack power, which obviously is based off your main stat and the weapon, so that's important. A swiftness summoner has enough little dots from all of the things that are happening, from the extra fire ticks on the Phoenix. If you don't have 5+1, you won't have 5+1 if it's your ult, so it's a perfect set, with all of the pets attacking. So overflowing communication, adrenaline, grudge, and keen blunt. These are your fourth. If you want to play your summoner as an ult with Charm set and 5 engravings, you're gonna take Cursed Doll 50-50 with your pet on swiftness. It's a very cheap build also to make, and you don't need any high level gems, because again, a lot of your damage is being done by the set itself, as opposed to by you being mega efficient with like spamming as often as possible Ancient Spear. You won't be disappointed in the Charm set. Maybe you won't get recruited into groups, because people are going to look at you and say, oh, this is not Salvation or Hallucination, which everyone plays. Oh wait, there's Earth Entropies also. I'm not going to accept this guy. Besides that, it's a really proper DPS set if Summoner is your ult under 1500 item level. I would say it's worth it. After that, you should be able to, after that you need more of other things like tripods, gems, high level of accessories to actually go and finish like Belshazzar Gate 4, 5, 6. So it goes hand in hand that you would swap your sets. Now let's get into the skills and into the gems as well. The greater goal would be 100% uptime on your self buff, as your pets are doing the damage for you. By the way, pets do about 50% of your total damage. You keep having this buff on yourself so that the pets are constantly buffed. One expires, I cast the other, and so on, but you're gonna see that this one's gonna expire before I get the cooldown for the Lily, right? There's a half a second there where the Lily is not available. You're gonna see on the next rotation, right? If you're trying to be mega efficient. See, buff is expired and it's just a little bit. And this is, by the way, with like a level 10 gem on the Lily. That being said, in the grand scheme of things, it's more important for you to do mechanics right, or to get maximum uptime on the Ancient Spear, than pure 100% uptime on these two. Cuckoo is somewhere else on the map, okay? You have to chase him for 2 minutes, right? This is the reality on the field. Now, level 10 gem on the Lily is something that I definitely recommend. If you want to play this build and if Summoner is your main, level 10 cooldown gem here is gorgeous. Level 8 cooldown gem on the Sticky Swamp Moss, not because you need it for the self buff necessarily, a level 7 would be plenty sufficient for that, but you need it for the Judgment Conviction procs in between it and also the Water Spirit, because we have Water Spirit with one of them and the Sticky Swamp Moss is the other. So Sticky Swamp Moss, Water Spirit, and this is how we've procced it. Now you see there's 1 second in between them, right? There's only 1 second of cooldown, and the Water Spirit doesn't have any gem. In order for you to always feel like using Moss, Water Spirit, and proc your Conviction always, then this is the minimum, so it can be comfortable. If I remove this from the Sticky Swamp Moss, and I'm actually going to add a level 10 gem on the Sticky Swamp Moss as well, things are gonna be even better. So Moss, Water Spirit, see? They are like maybe a quarter of a second apart. Other cooldown gems are, for example, on the Ancient Spear. I've placed it here as a level 6, not because this is what you need. Feel free to get level 10. The lower the cooldown for one of your highest DPS skills, the better. Next cooldown gem is on Shatter Earth. This is another important thing because it does quite some damage and it's pretty nice to have. And then the rest, I would use damage gems on all of my other skills. I've placed them again at level 6s and 5s because the higher they are, the better. If you want to go full level 10 damage gems, that's what you need to do, and that's how much more damage you're gonna get. So we have damage on Ancient Spear, we have damage on our pet Maririn, damage on Pauru, damage on the Lily, and damage on the Shatter Earth. This is also the order of their importance. So if you wanna get like a level 9 gem damage, make sure you get it on the Ancient Spear first, and then your level 8 would be on Maririn, and so on, yeah? Cool. And then lastly we have here damage on Shreddy and also damage on the ancient skills, these ones right here. Again, the higher they are, the more damage you're gonna do. And as we discussed earlier, if you're wearing the charm set, I don't want to say gems are not that important, but the value of the charm set comes from the set itself as opposed to these attack gems right here. The cooldown gem, especially the one on the Lily, is still really important simply because this one helps you keep a high uptime on a self-attack power buff, which by the way the charm set leeches off the attack power that you have, so it's as important in a charm set as it is with a hallucination set, right? In terms of gameplay and rotation, there is no set in stone rotation. You need to do this before that, with the exception of a couple of basics, right? I'm gonna discuss the same things as we've discussed in my previous video, because I'm not assuming that you've watched my specialization guide and now you know all about the Ancient Spear because I talked about it then. So for those of you who did watch my specialization guide, please excuse me for repeating myself. I think it's important to mention this in both guides. So one of the basics of the Summoner Swiftness build is to keep a good uptime on the self buff, as we discussed. I cast the Sticky Swamp Moss, and then, you know, my Water Spirit, Pauru, Maririn, and I just do my thing. Then I cast my Lily because I want to have a good uptime on my self buff, and I still do my thing. And then I cast my Sticky Swamp Moss because the Lily buff is over. I still do my thing, right? And then when the Moss buff is over, I cast my Lily again, and so on. This is one of the basics that you need to get used to in this build. The second one is just dealing with Ancient Spear, okay? Ancient Spear is a really high damage skill. Even in this build, it acquaints for maybe 30-35% of your total damage, so it's really cool to use it very well. Ancient Spear has a telegraph. Let me cancel this one. Ancient Spear has a telegraph, this one, that might take a little bit of getting used to cast all 3 spears. Ancient Spear looks like this, right? There's an animation up and down and there's 3 spears. The animation, first of all, can be cancelled by either Shatter Earth or Alimage or Akir, for example, which are some skills that have the ability to cancel animations of others. This is how it would look if you cancel this animation. You just cast Shatter Earth here, and Shatter Earth basically completes before Ancient Spear even does. So it's nice because you get to use 2 skills in one in that sense, and I highly advise you in a Swiftness build to get used to doing either this, what we just did, so Ancient Spear and then Shatter Earth, or you can do Ancient Spear into, for example, Alimage, yeah, and then you get to cast again 2 skills sort of in one. Casting Ancient Spear is also a process. On a target with a high hitbox, with a large hitbox, I generally tend to watch my mouse position. The mouse is in the center of the first AoE of the bottom spear. So this is going to be the bottom spear right here, and there's an AoE around each spear that still sort of hits, right? So if I would be to cast on this guy, I would cast it around here. Why here? Simply because I know that if I keep my mouse here, this is the center of the first AoE, which sort of hits his legs a little bit also, yeah? So this would be a 3 spear hit. 1, 2, 3. That's the 3 instances of a hit. With small cooldown, small hitbox monsters, like this one, for example, then I do it in a bit of a different way. I look at the top there, the line that goes northeast. That line, I try to keep it this much away from the mob. How much is this much? As I said in my previous video, I don't know how to explain it. It's just muscle memory for me. I know that this is a 3 spear hit right here, right? Even though the mouse position seems to be further away from the target, right? Just because the target is smaller and now my mouse seems to be further, but still I'm getting 3 spears. But this is how I got used to doing things on a smaller hitbox, right? I encourage you to come to Trixion and practice your Ancient Spear, because one thing is sitting still and gently positioning your mouse for a perfect 3 hit, and then there's another thing while you're burning in Cuckoo and you need to dash and then cast it at the same time, or maybe just move around and manage to cast it here. It's practice makes perfect, and this is an important thing to practice. Ancient Spear is also a parts destruction skill. Parts destruction is per each spear. So if you tier it up to have 3 spears, then it's 1, 2, 3. 1 parts, another part, and another part. If you throw a corrosive on the target, that is a 6 parts destruction skill. Absolutely massive. And since we are in the tips section, we need to talk about pets as well. Even though they are mostly AI controlled, they sometimes need microing, and you can do that. I don't want you to get kicked out of every Cuckoo group, because you play Swiftness Summoner and your pets always swarm the flamethrower and kill it before the guy gets enough gauge to enter his Mario, right? So because of that, I'm just going to give you examples. This is Maririn, and they generally attack the target that they've been summoned closest to. What if I want Maririn to attack this target? I'm going to hover over it and press shift. As you can see, Maririn comes here to attack, and there's also a bronze telegraph that appears underneath the target, which sort of confirms that we've actually done this action. Again, I've pressed shift here, Maririn comes here, and then shift here, Maririn attacks that target. You can also move Maririn, for example, out of harm's way. If you stop spamming the shift, then Maririn is going to automatically go back to attacking. But as long as you have the shift at the same time as you're moving, for example, I keep pressing shift now, then Maririn is just walking wherever you want him to walk. The same goes for all of your other pets, by the way. Of course, the Lily is immobile, so you're not going to move the Lily, but you can make the Lily attack whichever target you want. From this one, which is the closest, I'm going to make all my pets, because they all work in one keybind, sort of. You cannot decide to place Maririn to attack something and the Lily to attack something else. Your pets have active skills, by the way. It's just a button away and he does a bigger hit. Maririn the same, a button away and he does a charge with a bigger hit. Don't forget to press these buttons because it's part of the extra damage increase. But it's just having your pets out, Swamp, Water Spirit for the Judgment, Conviction proc, then Spear cancelled by the Shatter Earth. Don't forget to get your pets out. Don't forget to get your Conviction proc. Don't forget that you can cancel the Ancient Spear with an ancient skill like Alimage as well. It's just a complete, beautiful, amazing mess, which feels so nice to play, even if for the one reason that someone else is doing the damage for you. And finally, let's get into the actual skill build itself. To talk about the tripods, priorities, and runes as well. First, the Sticky Swamp Moss, we have Prepare Attack, which is a hugely important tripod because of the attack power buff. And then we have the Party Synergy right here, which is the one that you should be taking. You don't actually need at all to tier this skill up to the 3rd tier, because this one, the fact that it lasts longer on the target, you actually don't need it because it already lasts 15 seconds. Plenty of time. Right, and it keeps refreshing until it goes away, and now it's counting down, but you have 2 seconds cooldown on it. So before this even gets nearly close to the end, you're gonna apply it again, right? The Water Spirit, we play 3-3-1. These two right here make the Water Spirit do more damage, which is sort of negligible because he's not a summon skill, he's a normal skill. But this one recovers our mana faster, so it's a nice priority tripod, not S tier priority. It's just a nice tripod to have, important to get later down the road. Then we have on our bar, we have the Ancient Spear. This is a hugely important skill. We play 3-1-2. This one reduces cooldown, this one, and obviously implicitly if you use it effectively, does more damage. And these two also do more damage. Again, not day 1 tripods, but day 2 tripods, because this is like the biggest DPS skill you have outside of your summons, right? Next one is Shatter Earth, and I play 1-2-1. All of these 3 tripods make the skill do more damage. So they're nice to have, obviously, to increase your DPS output. However, not like SSS sort of priority. So get them after you get the SSS ones. I'm running a Wealth Rune, a Legendary Wealth Rune on this one, simply because the cooldown of Ancient Spear is lower than the cooldown of Shatter Earth. We have 24 seconds here, and then we have 30 minus 11 from the tripod here, which makes it into a 19 second. So because of that, I feel the need to get a little bit more ancient energy for one more Alimage that could be used to potentially cancel an Ancient Spear animation while this is still cooling down. Yeah, so that's the logic for the Wealth Rune here. You can take whichever rune you want here, maybe a Rage Rune for example, right? Or an Overwhelm if you feel the need to. Then next skill we have on my bar we have the Lily. The Lily has a very important S tier priority tripod, which is the self attack power buff, and then you play 1 Toxic Seed and then the Elite Summon here as a number 2. I use a mana reduction rune on the Lily because I cast it quite often, so it's nice to save a little bit of mana. Then we have Shruti, which also has a really important tripod. This one, you should absolutely look into getting this one, the one from the Lily and the one from the Sticky Swamp Moss as a top priority 3 tripods that you're getting. And then we have playing 1 and 1. This one makes Shruti does 3 times Shruti's damage. Not that Shruti does an immense amount of damage, but I'm just saying it makes him do more. On Shruti, I'm using Bleeding Rune because it works very well with the type of skill that it is. It's also a summon skill, by the way, so it gets buffed by our class engraving as well. Then we have Pauru. We play 3-1-1. These increase the damage of Pauru, so eventually down the road you can look into getting these after you acquire your top priority tripods. I have a 60% cooldown reduction rune on Pauru. And lastly, but not least, one of your highest damage summons, which is Maririn. We play 1-2-1. This is the way you can go for the highest damage outcome, but also Maririn has a taunt, by the way. So that active skill on Maririn, the taunt, it can be used in specific situations if you so wish. Maririn has another cooldown reduction rune. Obviously, we use Kelsion as the awakening. Kelsion is another skill that is a summon, by the way. even though it's an awakening, it's actually considered as a summon, right? So it does damage for you, and it also has an active skill that does a big amount of damage every couple of seconds. And this wraps up our swiftness pet build. I really hope that you guys are gonna give this one a try, because it's a very unique way of playing a class in Lost Ark in general, but the summoner as well, because you have all of these things around you, and it's such a breath of fresh air compared to all of the other spec builds you've been playing, because it's so overpowered. This one is so nice, so cool, so fresh, and it has a really good feeling to it, yeah. Until my next video or live stream, I wish you guys good luck. I hope you're having fun whatever you're playing, hopefully Lost Ark, and I'm gonna see you soon. Take care.